All right, so this is the October meeting of the koha-US Consortia Special Interest Group. There is an agenda that I sent out a link earlier in the week, hoping people would put stuff on there. There's only one thing on there that was added by Jason, and Jason couldn't be here with us today. So I'll just start with that. He wanted to talk about bug 38219. So this is currently when you put a message, well, with Koha 2305 and earlier, 2311 and earlier, I guess. With most versions of Koha, when you put a message on somebody's account with that add a message button, if there's a system preference that makes it so that only the library staff where the message was created can delete the message. But there was a workaround to that because it was a link. It was a URL. And anybody from anywhere could click on that URL to delete the message, and it would delete the message. The thing is that if you weren't at the patron's home library, you couldn't see that link. But there was a way, if you knew what you were doing, all it took was the first part of the link plus the message ID, and that was a workaround for deleting a message that was owned by another library. And now that in Koha 2405, you can't do that anymore. That link won't work at all. And so bug 38219 would change the dropdown for that system preference. Yeah, I guess the preferences allow message deletion system preference, and the options are allow or don't allow. And it allows staff from other libraries to delete messages or don't allow staff to delete messages. And what Jason wants is an option that would allow staff from the patron's home library to also be able to delete messages. And so he wanted to bring that up in hopes that somebody else was interested in that too. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. So I don't know. What does anybody else think? How many of you actually have allow all message deletion system preference set to anything other than allow? I think Jason and I are the only ones, it looks like. So that's out there then. If anybody wants to comment on it, and I'll put a link to the bug in the chat box too. So that was the only thing on the agenda. And that generated no discussion at all. So, and that's the way these meetings go sometimes, I'm happy to talk about anything anybody wants to talk about that has to do with Koha and using Koha and a library consortium. And that was the only thing on the agenda. So if anybody else wants to talk about anything, now's the time to speak up.
I'm curious to know how the upgrades are affecting consortium. The CERC meeting, we had a lot of problems with the upgrade. So I'm wondering with this group, how many have upgraded, and are there consortium things I need to be aware of?
My biggest beef right now is the 0.4 release broke the holds bad. If you go on to the item record, a lot of times the hold button is actually missing, and it's happening on the OPEC side too. It doesn't seem to be isolated to one side or the other, and it could be a misinterpretation of rules in some way. From my understanding, there is a bug out there, and have that. It has a patch has been passed. Copy this here real quick.
Cool. I was going to ask if you could show us an example.
I can. It's also making things not show up on holds queues. So yeah, it's quite messy, but let me get to a place where I can share. But yeah, we just discovered this the day that the holds or the patch, the 0.4 release rolled out. And I know I used the buttons before, so like let me share.
So I'm looking at my system right now, and I'm still on 24.05.03. So
Yeah, don't go to 04 if you can. I think they might have paused rolling that out simply because of that. Can you see my screen?
yeah,
Okay, I've gone to 3 screens, and so it's hard to tell. Okay, so if I were to search the catalog. And I go into an item, there's no holds button.
well, if you go back to the results, I think it said no holds allowed.
Yeah, and you should be able to place holds. There's
Yeah, no holds allowed.
yeah, there's something majorly broken with the holds.
All right.
So yeah, not fun.
And do you know the bug number for that?
I put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you did. And Brendan threw one in there too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So bug number 38126. It affected us because we have local hold priority for when the item home library is the same as the pickup location. And we're using the transport cost matrix at the same time. So what happened, I guess, was the transport cost matrix would work and the other part of it would work, and then the one hold, it's hard to explain, I guess, but it's not a duplicate hold, it's one hold appearing on 2 paging lists, and then it would be like a race for whichever library went and checked in the item would fulfill it. So it would be like kind of the library staff would be expecting, like, oh, we have a local item, this hold is for pickup here, why is there an item coming in transit from another place? And that was just patched to our system on Tuesday night. So I guess we have like a different Bywater branch of 2405.04 that has that patch in it. But now I'm wondering if the bug that Christopher brought up is also affecting us possibly. I'm not sure, because I don't know if it's just like a timing thing and things have to settle, but the one library that I replied back, let us know what you see. If it changes, it should change, because I was able to test the patch locally, but not with like real world data. It was just like setting up a couple different things, setting up the transport cost matrix and the local hold priority, and then placing a hold, and then seeing that it would appear on 2 holds queues, and then seeing that after applying the patch, it went away. So the patch has worked, but we're kind of wondering if we still have another issue with the holds queue.
This release really did a number on the holds. I'm kind of take that this wasn't tested a little bit more.
Well, I see Jason is here now. He might want to talk about the bug that I tried so poorly to explain that we started off with.
Okay. Oh, the one I sent you.
Yeah, you sent me the one
Okay.
38219.
On the issue that Brendan was talking about, we had that same problem. And I think we got patched last night and it seems to not be happening anymore for us at least. Because I was able to run the holds queue for all libraries and I could see those dupe lines on there and I don't see that anymore. So it's been working for us. For 38219, this is just so I had some jQuery in place to make this work where I could let the home library of the patron manage all the messages on that patron. But that broke with the upgrade. So right now the choices are all or nothing, basically. Either everybody can delete everybody else's messages or they can only delete the messages that they placed at their library on that patron. So we run into this situation where the patron racks up some trivial messages like I need an address update. And then they skip town, they move to another library, they change their home library. That message that was created at the first home library is locked to that home library. So the new library can't do anything with it. They have to call the originating library to go in and delete the message. So what I'd really like to see is a third option where like if the logged in library matches the home branch of the patron, then they can manage the messages. Otherwise, they can't. So that's what I put on the bug.
I think you and I are the only ones that use that system preference.
Everybody else just lets everybody else delete messages.
Yeah, I mean, our patron, this is Eileen at CLAMS, our patrons use multiple libraries. So, you know, it would mean the staff would have to call the home library to get rid of a message. So we generally let them get rid of messages wherever the patron happens to be at the time. I mean, it can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, I guess. It depends on the message.
Yeah, around here, in the times in the past, the reason that we have that set to don't allow is because there have been abuses of that. So
yeah, I think it was probably before I even started, there was drama surrounding it. Like that decision was made before
yeah.
I started.
And here they don't call the home library, they just call me. Because they know I can go in and make them go away. So really what you want is you want it to be easier for people to not call you.
I want one less thing for me to do. Yes.
I understand.
It all goes back to being selfish. I know.
Well, I don't know if anybody else is having anything going on they want to talk about.
I just wanted to announce that I'm leaving the YLN as of November 1st. So Jerry, who is here, will be taking my place.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jerry.
Sorry, I don't have a camera at the moment.
Miranda is asking if CLAMS is still having cataloging issues after the upgrade.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Brendan.
So there was an issue with the way that we do cataloging is we allow our libraries to do fast cataloging, and then our catalogers at the central site overlay those records with the full records from OCLC. And there was an issue with the fast cataloging permissions were not it wasn't allowing you to create, if you had and now I forget the exact name of the permission, but there's just fast cataloging, which is what our catalogers that are out at the library branches have. They were not able to create fast cataloging records or edit them. So that was patched really quickly after the upgrade and hasn't been too much of a problem since that patch has happened. But we are still having, there's a bug, I could find the bug number probably, that has to do with when you limit editing items by library group. So we have library groups for our libraries that have branches. They should be able to edit the item records of any of their branches without having to change their logged in branch. So that has been a little bit of an issue.
I have the same issue, yeah.
And then we have an issue with we're using OCLC connection client, and the bug that added the CSRF protection in Koha was going to basically make that OCLC connection client not be able to work without the CSRF token. But there was a patch that was that fixed that issue, and it was included in 2405. But what we're finding is at about 3:30 in the afternoon, it stops working every day. So it has to do something with like that token expiring, or that process, that daemon that allows the OCLC client to connect needs to get restarted or something. So we're trying to talk to Bywater about that one. Those are I think, unless there's another cataloging one.
I think that's it.
And I'm curious to ask Jason about the duplicate items appearing on the holds queue. Did you just test it by, you run the holds queue for all and then sort by title or something, so that if they're duplicates, you can find them that way?
Yeah, that's all I did. And then like if you do see a duplicate and click into the records and make sure they're the same record, if there's only one hold, that's telling you that it's duping on two different queues.
Okay. Yeah,
so
I think so. The patch is working because in our production server, I'm not seeing that, except for I ran it on our test server that didn't have that patch, and it's definitely there. So I'm wondering if we have maybe possible, it might just have like a few that are lingering that have to get fulfilled. I'm not sure. Sorry, somebody else was talking.
I think this is in the chat, Charlie was asking for the token expiration bug. I think this is it, but I'm not 100% sure. 37543.
Yeah, that's the bug that we definitely needed to be able to use the OCLC client at all with 2405. So that one, it got backported to this. That's why we're on the 2405.04 partially to get this one.
Speaking of cataloging, and this relates to Consortia, our libraries are pushing to add library of things, and oh gosh, my camera is weird today. They want to add library of things differently than how we've always done it, which, you know, because they're buying a lot more library of things. So the only bib template that's available to them, unless we give them editing privileges to records we've downloaded from OCLC, which we don't want to do, it's the only bib template that seems to be available to them is the fast add. We would like to set up a fast add bib template for Library of Things specifically, you know, with a 505 contents note and so on. Does anyone know? I mean, I suspect the answer is no, but I just wanted to run it by more experienced people in Koha. Can you have more than one fast add bib template? We would like to have multiples for our staff
Presently,
to use.
no, but I think that there is a bug out there for add more than one to have more than one fast add template.
Oh, if anybody can
looking
support
into
that as well as us, that'd be great. I mean, we've been looking for mid-level cataloging permissions from the minute we went on Koha.
Right.
But in the interim, if we could have more than one fast add bib template, you know, we could have on our old system, we had, you know, one for DVDs, one for books, but the Library of Things are really, it's really bringing it to a head, and we're not giving editing privileges to full cataloging to library staff. We've no plans to do that, so it's bug 32773. Okay, thank you.
I was going to say, I know there's a bug out there for it. I didn't realize I was the one that read it and wrote it.
Okay.
I think eventually the way to do that would be to have all the different fast add frameworks start with FA would be one way to limit to those frameworks. But right now there's just one FA framework, and nothing you do is going to make any other frameworks fit into that. So
Yeah, I mean, Brandon had talked about an idea of adding buttons and stuff, but you know, it means that we have to doctor the single fast add bib
yeah,
framework to have 505s, and then try and educate the staff that you only have to use those for things with contents notes. It's not user friendly only having one.
My thought for like a workaround, it's not the proper way to do it, but what you would basically create your fast add to have all possible fields that you would need, and then you could have some kind of like a drop down menu, and you would select which type of thing you wanted, and then it would hide the fields that
right.
you didn't need for that thing.
Jason kind of does something similar with items, where if you choose something from a drop down, it changes what's available. It changes some of the other options to you have something
Yeah.
similar. But
We
that's
don't
for
want
the item
people
records.
We don't want people using serial enumeration for things that aren't magazine. So I hide it unless it's a magazine, and then if they pick a magazine shelf location, it shows the field. So it's doable, but you're right, it's clunky and a workaround, and you should really, we should really support this bug for more fast add frameworks.
I appreciate there are other people that hadn't realized they had commented on this bug also. So I didn't remember opening it, and nobody else remembered commenting on it. So what else is going on?
I've got a question. So we are migrating some libraries on board from Sierra. No major mystery there, but apparently there is something in Sierra that allows you to set up a consortium environment. So you could set up Sierra so that it works as a consortium. Koha, as far as I know, doesn't really have anything like that where there's like a consortium mode versus you know, it seems like in a consortium the different libraries just appear as just different libraries in Koha, and then there's library groups which you can kind of group them together and things like that. But is there anything equivalent as a consortium mode or anything like that any of all y'all have heard of in Koha?
I can't think of anything.
Is everybody just have their different consortium libraries just as different branches?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All of, we have 50 libraries, and then I have a group of 4 school libraries,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have another group of 4 public libraries, but they're all just separate branches. But then I use the
Libraries group.
library groups, which is in the administration module.
Mm-hmm.
And I have them set up as editing groups. So theoretically, when there isn't a bug, theoretically, everybody at Donovan County, at any of the 4 Donovan County libraries, should be able to edit items that owned by any of the other 4 Donovan County libraries. And for the school libraries, they are in a group that doesn't allow them to see the members outside of their group. So if you're at a school and you go to search for a patron that's at a library outside of the school district, those are hidden from those people. And so there are some controls that kind of do a little bit of that. But then the other issue is that, and the patrons there can still borrow from other libraries, and they can still see the other items, the titles and things owned at other libraries, the patrons and the staff. They just can't edit patrons or see patrons from outside of their group. So there are some things you can do, but and Koha is moving things in a direction that makes that possible. And one CLAMS is co-funding a development with me that allows that so eventually things, if a Donovan County patron places a request on something, there's the local hold priority, but the local hold priority would cover the whole group. So there could be a situation where the Donovan County Troy Library, their patrons get the Troy items first, and then the Donovan County Wathena patrons, they get the Wathena items first, but then they get the other items that are available in Donovan County second, and then everything else comes third, so that the Donovan County items stay in Donovan County until all those requests are filled, and vice versa. So
And that's a development that you're funding?
yeah, that's a development that's in development.
Okay, cool, thanks.
So there are some things going on that make some of these things work in kind of that direction, but it's not fully developed. And I don't know what the Sierra system looks like either. So I don't know what the Sierra system does that Koha can't do yet.
Well, we were on Sierra. This is
well, there you go.
But to be honest, I'm not the systems person, but Brandon and Anisha are here. I don't recall that we used a consortium mode in Sierra. But this development George is mentioning about the tiered holds, we never had that in Sierra. We were asking about it for years, so we're excited about that. We have 6 libraries in Martha's Vineyard, and they would it would save us a lot of delivery costs. I mean, we get delivery from the state, but items get damaged going back and forth from the island. So we wanted, Edgartown or Vineyard Haven to fill the hold first, and then a middle tier of priority where the other island libraries would have the opportunity to fill the hold, and then it would go to the network. But even aside from the islands, we have some libraries with branches where, staff may go back and forth between the main branch and the main library and the branches. We want those as tiers for holds too. So it was something we never had in Sierra, but we always wanted. But as to your point about the consortium mode in Sierra, I don't know whether we were on that or not.
I can, you know, like, yeah, I can speculate, but let's see. Somebody, Jason, you put in something in the chat. I'll take a look at it. Thank you.
The tiered holds is something that we had in Dynex when I worked at Boise Public Library back in 1999. So it's not that far out of reach. It's just nobody's ever done that development in Koha. So
yeah, we thought the cost matrix, the transport cost matrix, if that's what it's called, I always forget the exact name of that thing, but we thought that was going to do what we wanted it to do, but there was some issue with that, so it doesn't do fully what we wanted it to do. But this development, when it comes, should make it really nice.
I don't, when we were on Sierra, we left and went to Koha before this LX starter thing came out. So maybe I'm guessing that might have been a new feature of that we never had. LX starter always sounded like a funny, like it sounds like a model of a car or something.
yeah, I used to have a Camry LX.
Is there any update on when, you know, the group issue, the groups being able to edit the items? I mean, I should have asked you, Brandon, first, but is there any timeline on when that's going to be fixed? Because that's affecting our catalogers, especially, and acquisitions people at libraries that have branches.
I can find that. I think so. That bug, I think it got signed off, but then it failed QA for something like it needs to be cleaned up somehow. But I can find the bug.
Yeah, if you find the bug, please post it in chat because I can't find it. I was looking for it earlier. What other issues are going on out there in the world? One thing I would say that's been a nice thing for us is we just onboarded with Aspen this week, and having each library having its own catalog separate has been kind of nice so far. That's one of the things they're all liking. The school district, though, they were thrilled. You know, they're one of our libraries that has 4 branches, and they were thrilled with the way that we set them up because we were able to do things that we could have never done in Koha, because they've always wanted the school there to be a school catalog, like for the Axtell School is a K through 12 school in a town of about 400 people way up near the Nebraska border. And they wanted to be able to just search their own collection, and that you can do that in Koha, but it's not that easy. But in Aspen, it was really easy, and they're excited about all the different changes and the new look to the catalog and the browse categories and everything. So
yeah,
so that's been pretty exciting here.
We onboarded to Aspen about the same time that you did, and we're loving it. There's a few things I have to wrap my head around in having a third-party catalog instead of something that is so ingrained with Koha, because there are certain things that you take advantage of or you take for granted, like your news does not translate over to Aspen, unfortunately. Their news is called something else, and it isn't as straightforward as koha-US was.
Is that like the web builder, I think, that you're talking about?
Not the web builder.
The
Trying to-
messages.
Yeah. Well, I think, okay. You got messages, but you've also got news. Messages translates good. It doesn't include the new functionality that Koha recently added, which is to be able for the patron to be able to mark it as read. So that functionality is totally gone. Yeah. If you're using Aspen. But the news, if you've posted news from Koha onto the OPAC, that doesn't go onto Aspen. And I think you have to go into that a completely different way now. Trying to remember the name of that. Because they call it something different. I have to.
System messages?
Might be. It might be that, yeah, system messages, and all that does is put a block up at the top of the screen. It's quite ugly, I guess. It's not. It's not as flexible as I would want it. I would. Okay. For a year now, I have been putting out a display for our nonfiction collection. I have a rotating theme in the nonfiction collection that I've been going off of from. I've been using National Today to come up with, what's the theme for this month, and like a month is cookbooks. So I have been putting a news panel in there that talks about this is National Cookbook Month, and it'll put a link to the catalog searching for our cookbooks. So now I have to reinvent how I do that for Aspen, and I have to incorporate a whole new additional workflow so that Aspen is included in that. And I think I could probably do that with Showcase or something like that. Is trying to remember what that is.
Spotlight.
Spotlight. New terms. Spotlight, but that I briefly looked at that, and I don't know that that's going to fit the bill, because that does a little bit more than I want it to. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure something out. It's a small annoyance,
I don't know. It sounds like fun to me.
The other thing that was rather interesting was self-registration. Self-registration, you can point per catalog, you can point your self-registration either at your Koha self-registration form or a built-in form. In the built-in form, you have no control over the order of fields, which is odd. So you have to take it the way it is. But with self-registration, we had to jump through some hoops with that as well.
Christopher, you might consider
one in particular is where it's changed.
Oh, what's that? Oh,
I think you froze for a second,
Hearing
Christopher.
somebody else. You hear me?
I think we can hear you now, but I think you froze for about 4 or 5 seconds there.
Oh, that's weird.
can you hear me now?
The other Chris.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Anyways, so with self-registration in Koha, we have a setting turned on to notify patrons when their password is changed. The way Aspen does self-registration. I don't know why it does this, but when you self-register, you don't get Koha's welcome message. You have to get Aspen's welcome message. We can't use Koha's email confirmation. We had to turn that off, which is frustrating. So we can't confirm the email. So that's going to be fun. And when they register through Aspen, they get a notification that their password has changed. It has to do with how Aspen is setting up the account. I don't know why it has to force a password change in there, but it does, and it triggers Koha's password change notification. So we had to turn that notification off. So there's some quirks working with a third-party catalog interface as opposed to Koha's built-in. We take a lot of things for granted. We're having to we had to figure some of those out and make concessions with some settings. That's what we've run into.
We definitely feel you on that, Christopher, because we implemented and went live with both of them at the same time, Koha and Aspen, and it was pretty intense. But there's like features that are coming in 2 different platforms, and you have to be like, are these 2 features going to work together? Or like if there's a feature coming out for the Koha OPAC, you have to wait and see, like, will it get developed for Aspen? So it's always like it adds to the like, can we actually do what is in the release notes?
I do like Aspen's documentation. It is well documented. If there's anything I need to figure out, I can find it easily. But I will say that their support, even though they're going through the same ticket system, their support teams are a little bit different in that if you ask about something, if you ask about something that Aspen can't do, they'll tell if it can't do it, they'll tell you it can't do it. They'll ask, do you want a quote? So they're pushing quotes quite a bit.
Yes, they are. One thing they're trying to do I'm not sure if this is a politically correct word to use. They're trying to do a native, inbuilt calendar in Aspen, and they're looking for money in that, if anybody's interested. One tricky thing with Aspen that we've found is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, if I'm using the correct terms, but with the browse lists, we allow our libraries to do those, but sometimes inadvertently they take down the shared. We have network or consortium browse lists, and then the libraries can do their own on their own pages. But the permissions are not granular enough so that sometimes when a library staff member adds their browse list, they inadvertently delete ours. And it affects everyone, obviously. So that's something they do need to add in Aspen. But if everything is a quote, that's kind of worrying with the new company. I'm wondering how much development they're actually going to do at no cost to the customers.
Yeah, we take a lot for granted with Bywater and with the Koha community, because we have a place to put out ideas, kind of a wish list with the bugs. But I don't see that with Aspen. Our only voice to say, hey, this would be nice, is through Aspen support at this time. There might be I don't know if there's a forum out there. There probably is a forum out there, but they don't have a bug list that I know of.
I think it's
place
coming.
to
I
plug
think
in.
it's, from what I
They're-
hear, they
They're
Yeah,
in
that's been
develop
worked
discussion right
on.
now about choosing a platform. So they're proposing and demoing Jira and GitHub issues are the two that they're deciding between right now, pretty much. But I don't. It's not set in stone yet. But it should be coming, one of those two things, I think, in the near future. Which I think that's one of the things I think a big difference between the Koha community and the Aspen is just like the size of the Koha community and like the established practices of proposing the bugs, testing the bugs, and QAing the bugs. It's all like, it's a really good like
There's a
established
structure
process.
already
And,
there.
yeah, and Aspen is kind of figuring out how to get something like that going, because it's been
Aspen
more of a top-down kind of development.
Aspen Discovery right now is at the point where they're saying we need the kind of structure that Koha has already developed. And it took, Koha 10, 15 years to develop all of that. And so I think the growing pains with Aspen Discovery are that it's trying to grow out of just having like 2 developers that are doing 90% of the work to trying to grow a community. And, Koha has like over 500 people have committed things to the Koha code. I think if you look at Aspen, it's more like 10 because it isn't that old of a product.
I think that's
Yeah, I
why
mean,
they're pushing towards the quotes. I mean, it would be nice if their initial approach is, hey, that's a great idea. We'll add that to the wish list or something like that, rather than going for the quote. But right now, if you want to make something happen in Aspen, it is very different than Koha, and so they lean towards the quotes because it's the money that's going to drive development right now. They don't have that community of developers.
Aspen's based on Viewfind. Have any of you developed for Viewfind before?
I have.
Have you?
Hmm.
Is
Long
it
time ago.
easy or difficult or?
I mean, no, as long as you know the language, it was
Okay.
doable.
The code is way different now than Viewfind. It wouldn't be recognizable. That was like
Really?
multiple iterations ago that you can draw it back to Viewfind. But yeah, it's I'm not saying if you knew Viewfind you still might be able to do it, but it wouldn't necessarily be I know Viewfind, therefore I know how to do this. It's evolved significantly from those days.
So Koha, thank you, Bob. So Koha is like written in Perl, right?
Yep.
What about Aspen?
PHP.
Like, is it PHP? Okay. So it's kind of a different
And
language.
Java too.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to take different developers because we need to go round them up.
And I think like a big challenge for Aspen, and hopefully like getting a bug tracker will help make it a little bit somewhat defined. It's really hard to be able to test anything in Aspen. So they're like the barrier to being able to even test stuff is a lot higher than just Koha by itself.
And there's no like demo servers for Aspen that I can find. There's demo servers.
I've been able to do it a little bit, but not nearly as much as Koha, and it's still been like it's being developed. But there's a Docker image for Aspen, and so if you run Koha testing Docker, you can run the Aspen DevBox Docker, and they just worked together. But then it also broke for me, and then so I have to see where's the status of that, because it's kind of in process. But hopefully that'll be improving and it'll be easier to be able to test it, because it's hard to get anybody to contribute anything if you can't run it locally and test it in an easy sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
And it would
So
be
when I
good.
was at the Aspirin conference in March, there was a session where they were helping people load up the Aspen testing environment. And I opted not to do that because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But that's one of the things that I was excited, that I went to this conference and we knew we were coming on to Aspen. The conference is in March and we're coming on to Aspen in October. And I thought, this will give me some time between now and next spring. But then they set the next Aspen conferences a year from now. They had it in the spring, and then in 2025, it's going to be in the fall. So it's going to be like 18 months between the first conference and the second conference. So,
If they're planning to have, I've heard from them directly about their fundraising effort to develop this calendar, but the way Bywater has, or maybe it's Koha, Bywater, I think, has a page for community, basically an come help us fund this. I hope
right.
Aspen will do the
It's up
same.
there. It's Bywater's putting it on the same page. There's
Oh,
just
they are.
there's
Okay.
an Aspen category on it, and I think there's
Okay.
only one development listed at the moment.
Right.
So
I wonder, will they have their own though? I'm just confused how this is going to work if they've separated from Bywater.
well, so okay. So Aspen is still supported by Bywater. A couple of people from the former Aspen team have left. Some are at now Grove for Libraries. So right now, Grove for Libraries is is focused on development. So that is if you're looking for a development, it may behoove you to ask Bywater, get a quote there, also get a quote from Grove. Because I will tell you right now, Grove has far more experience. Hopefully Bywater can get up to speed. But so it's not Bywater that you're still working with. It's very different than it was. And they are changing. I'm hoping they'll have some communication out soon. I've been pushing them to do that because they are changing a lot about how they're doing it. And I know, Eileen, you mentioned free development and things like that, which used to be a feature. I don't think you're going to see that anymore. So,
Well, I've explained to the Aspen people that our development money is focused on Koha right now.
Yeah.
Um,
And there is no Aspen people anymore. It's blending into the organization. So there is no like separate Aspen team like there used to be. So that's a difference as well.
So who are we going to go to? I'm sorry, I'm really confused about this entire Grove thing. Who are we going to go to if we need support for Aspen then? We still go to Bywater? Okay.
Yeah. Bywater is still your support company unless you were to make a change. But right now, in the US, I think the only other support company is Equinox, that does any Aspen stuff, and they are even with all these changes, they are well behind where Bywater is on support. So that's still that. And Bywater is wanting to do paid development, but Grove is also another option to do paid development. We did a development with Grove already that that we were pretty happy with for Aspen. So they are doing that, and then it just gets up whenever Bywater pushes the release that is available. That is when you get the updated code if you're working with Grove, if that all makes sense.
Okay. And of course they are working with some neighboring networks here in Massachusetts that are on a different ILS. So they'll be able to hopefully draw some support for development from those consortia too.
There are a lot of non-Koha libraries that
Yeah.
use Aspen, and a lot of them are really big and well-funded. So I don't think there's ever going to be a shortage of interest in development in Aspen. So per the previous discussion about where Aspen is, Yeah, there's definitely some infrastructure that needs to fall into place, but where Koha was 5 years in to where Aspen is wholly different. This thing is coming along much, much faster. And that stuff will get into place and all that. And Aspen's also moving towards a governance model just like Koha is. So George and I are both going to participate in that.
Yes, I was going to mention that there's oh, sounds like the baby's joined us now from Bob's house.
Yeah, he's hanging out.
There was a call out in the Aspen Slack channel for people interested in helping form a governance committee to kind of help Aspen develop some of the kinds of structures that Koha has in place for like how development happens and how the Aspen community decides things. And I volunteered to be on that with the caveat that if they had too many people, they would kick me off because I had other things to work on. And then like a week later, I ended up being asked or volunteering to be on the Koha Foundation steering committee. So I'm in the middle of two of these ridiculously complicated, community governance things, and I'm looking forward to seeing how badly I can screw both of these up.
I'll also add that Ed Veal and I are starting a Koha Aspen user group that's going to start in January, and that's on the Aspen calendar. So I would encourage you to, it's going to be the first Tuesday of the month. So I would encourage anybody who wants to have more of these discussions to do that, because I think with all the changes that are going on right now, there's going to need to be a lot of discussion about how we navigate through all this and communicate with the vendors what our needs are.
Ben, can you put or sorry, Bob, can you put a link for that in the chat?
I'll find it.
Cool, thank you.
That's great because there's Aspen and other ILS groups. So thank you for doing that. There has never been a Aspen Koha SIG.
Yeah, and I think that's because originally Aspen was like 99% Koha.
Yeah.
But now there's so many other library systems that are using it that it's kind of time to have something like that. So there is an Aspen Discovery Slack server, and I don't know if those of you using Aspen are on it or not. But when are we going to eliminate the koha-US Slack system?
It ends at the end of the year.
Cool. And everybody that wants to communicate that way can just move over to Mattermost, which in many respects I think is better than Slack. So
yeah, I still don't see everybody having moved over completely, and I'm having to hold on to Slack simply for Bywater at this point. They haven't adopted Mattermost at all that I can see.
neither is NEKLS. We have a NEKLS Slack server. So I think I'm on 4 Slack servers right now. And Aspen, I don't know if Aspen is going to consider moving over to Mattermost either. So, well, we managed to kill a perfectly good hour. The next meeting of this group will be on, where's my calendar? It's always like the same Thursday, so it'll be on Thanksgiving Day is when our next one is scheduled. So that's what I was thinking. Maybe we should forego a meeting in November, or I don't know, what's the general feeling here? Do we want to skip this in November, or do we want to meet on a different day?
There's no shame in skipping a month.
I think we should skip a month.
It's a crowded calendar. I'd just say skip it.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at too. There's a whole bunch of things going on the Thursday before, so And let's check and make sure that Christmas Day isn't on a Thursday. No, it's the day after Christmas in December. Maybe that one I'll send an email out and say maybe we should have a combined Christmas Thanksgiving episode somewhere in between.
Earlier in December, yeah.
Yeah, maybe earlier in December or yeah, in January we're pretty safe, but the day after Christmas and Thanksgiving Day are our next two meetings. So I'll send an email out and say, what day do you want to meet instead? So it's good to seeing everybody as always, and thanks for coming. I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you. Bye.